Stop saying gross things, Peter. Say it really loud. What did you just say? Yeah, see? If I'm recording, you shouldn't say it. Or, wait. If you wouldn't say it while I'm recording, you shouldn't say it.
At all.
At all. It's okay. There you go. It's okay. What were some things we mentioned Friday about the gold rush? The music, okay? In terms of how? What? You're absolutely right. What do we say about the music?
Very fitting.
Okay, good. Fitting. What else? Yes, absolutely. Okay, so obviously, if the music is upbeat, all right, then it's a happy scene. If it's slow and romantic, it's a romantic scene. When they're trying to escape from the cabin, did anybody recognize what song was being played there? Yes, Flight of the Bumblebees. Superb. All right, it's a frantic song. It was a frantic scene. So yeah, music was key. Chaplin composed a lot of his own music in his movies. So this is one reason why he is considered so impactful. He writes, he acts, he directs, he composes music. He didn't compose Fly the Bumblebees, but he composes music. Okay, eventually he produces, all right, which, what does to produce a movie mean? If you're a producer, what are you doing? You hear this term all the time, right? Huh? A producer is, did you say something? No. Oh, enlighten us. A producer is somebody who tends to, they're in charge of the funding for the movie. Okay, so if a movie, like for example, when we look at Star Wars, which is considered one of the most impactful movies of all time, on all sorts of different levels, the producer was saying to George Lucas, I don't know if we can keep producing this movie. It's not going very well. So they might pull funding, add funding, etc. So they're kind of in charge of the overall production. They are also kind of the go-between between the studio and the director and so on. Okay, good. What else about the Gold Rush? Take out your analysis sheets if you can't remember. Should I just start calling on people? Is this good? Yes. Okay, yeah, mostly, so in terms of the shots, okay, it was mostly straight on, good. What were the different kinds of shots of composition that we saw typically? And we talked a little bit about this on Friday. Okay, so long shots, good. What else? Okay, close-up. Okay, extreme close-up. Well, no, do we really see extreme close? Not really. Okay, close-up. What else? Yeah, establishing shots. Very good. Medium. Okay, good. Medium close-up. All right, I wanted at least to get medium on there because obviously that was most of the movie. Okay. We talked a little bit about how he used those shots to bring out emotion. You guys remember what scene? I brought up one. You might want to add another where he used the close-up for a particular purpose. Someone besides you. I love you, David. Think back in the movie, what were some times where he used close-ups? Okay, good. When he lost his memory, right? He was like, yeah, that one from like kind of medium to like in your face. Yes, the very, very random like scene, like things like, and he lost his memory, and then it moved on. It was like literally like a 5 to 10 second scene. Okay, good. I had mentioned when he's in the cabin and the little tramp has a chicken leg in his hand and he's eating it. All right, it's just like a regular medium, long shot. And all of a sudden it cuts in and you can see how much he's enjoying the food. All right, which of course makes you realize how hungry he is, etc. before he's attacked by Black Larson. Good. What else did we say about the Gold Rush? Or what other observations did you have about the Gold Rush? Is that a hand? Yes, go ahead. Yes.
The acting, they
Right. Right, yeah, you're absolutely right. And so some of us said that we liked the way Chaplin acted, right? That he had a lot of subtleties, a lot of technically. I said he's kind of a choreographer in terms of how he puts those scenes together. What about the other actors? Good acting, bad acting? Really? You think they're good acting? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. I would completely agree with that. Yep, very good. All right. So, and who were the different characters? Georgia. Okay, very good. Georgia. And it's kind of funny in the original when she first comes on the scene, typically you just have the regular writing, but when Georgia comes on for the first time, it's like it says Georgia with like these flowers in the background or whatever. So kind of letting you know that this is going to be a romantic interest. Okay, Jack, which is the boyfriend, good. Who else? Black Larson, Big Jim, McKay. All right, so those are the main characters there. Okay, so so we thought their acting was good. No. Okay, no, you did not. Why? Who?
I thought Georgia wasn't.
That's great. That's yeah. No, go ahead.
I thought Georgia wasn't this good. Sometimes, like, it seemed like she, like, way overdid everything, which is okay because it's a silent film. Mm-hmm. But then sometimes you're like confused what she was thinking.
Okay, that's fair. Like when?
Like when she goes to the empty cabin.
Okay.
It's just like, is she like pretending to be sad like she was when, like, she just like pretends different emotions. I feel like it was just.
Sure. So she was playing him initially, and then when she came back that night on New Year's Eve, okay, so that's where you're saying it was confusing. What do you guys think in that scene? She was legitimately, she felt bad, legitimately. What in that scene gave that away? Yes? No? How many of you think that's true? I need some participation this morning. I got one. Only one of you thinks that. 2, 3, 4. Yeah. 5. Okay, we got a little bit more. David, you can say something now. Okay, but yeah, when she slaps him, I think that's where you really understand that. Okay, she's legitimately upset about this because Jack's making fun of him and what have you. So, yeah, I think you kind of get kind of across the board in terms of acting. I feel like, and again, I like Chaplin, but I feel like his acting stands out compared to the rest of them because he's delivering a lot. It's a pretty complex character, and his messages are pretty complex as well. So hopefully when we go back and look at the scenes, we'll see a little bit more of that. You ended the class on Friday with a good question. Do you remember what it was? No. Come on. Does anyone in the class remember what it was? Yes.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Go ahead. Not quite, but close.
I said I didn't understand what the point of the movie was.
You didn't understand the point of the movie. Hello. Okay, point or message, right? I had said that Chaplin typically has some sort of message that he is trying to communicate. I mentioned it in Modern Times, how he's critical of industrialization. So in this movie, what I think I hear you saying is there's no like underlying message that you could see. Okay, and actually, I think there is. He's at least making some sort of commentary on something. He's definitely delivering a worldview here. What is it? Money? Should I say? Whoa. Should I say cash money? Cash money. Okay, that goes way back. So cash money. Okay, what do you mean by that, Abby? Because I would agree with you. I think that. Rich versus poor. You definitely see that dynamic in here. Okay, thank you. Should we shade it a little bit? Here, I'll just pick this. A little watercolor. Well, that's ugly. But anyway, so, all right. Anyways, but do we agree with Abby here? I mean, this rich person versus poor dynamic, and she picked the most deplorable tramp in the room? Yeah, I mean, absolutely you see that. And you see that in Modern Times. You see that in City Lights. He really brings that. He has done that ever since his first film, The Kid, because he grew up impoverished. Okay, so what's the kind of commentary on rich versus poor here? Yes.
I think that like you don't really see the difference in how he's treated, but then Georgia, I think that it's kind of an unconditional friendship that doesn't even know she thinks he's a story.
Right.
Like, but the people on the ship like we're gonna like throw him off. And so
Exactly.
Until they found out that he was this big man.
Right. Okay. Yeah, he's fine then, right? So there's definitely this element of the wealthy kind of judging the poor and stereotyping them. I mean, in the 1920s and actually in the 50s, does anybody remember what the Red Scare was? What was the Red Scare in the 1950s? Go ahead.
They were scared of communism.
Right, yes. So Chaplin eventually is kind of, people are suspicious that he is a communist because of his films, because of how he portrays the poor as often the victim. Okay, the poor is someone who, people who are poor in his films tend to be the people who are good, So he definitely has that that notion in his that message in a lot of his films. Okay, and it's not all bad, right? At the end, the tramp becomes wealthy, and they were millionaires, and so they were. Like it's all of a sudden they're millionaires. Okay, and so that wasn't necessarily bad, but that rich versus poor theme is definitely a big one. Good. What else? In terms of what he is saying about, what is he saying about life? What is he saying about people, even besides this? Or let me rephrase a little bit. What do you think of the little tramp? What do you think of that character? Should we write about this? Okay, try to make the best of everything. Absolutely. That's one of the things he certainly did, right? Tries to make the best of everything. What else? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We feel bad for him. Why do we feel bad for him? What are some things in the movie that make us feel bad for him? He gets stood up. That kind of stinks, right? He gets stood up. Good. He has a ton of persistence. How do you spell persistent? I will stop there. Okay, good. All right. What else? Right? Overcoming odds, right? What else? What we are doing, we're looking at character development here. Okay, why do you like a character? Yes, keep going. Yeah, his physical stature, right? Casting is huge in movies, right? So he is short. He is small, okay? I mean, when did that come into play? What scenes? Give me some specifics. Yeah, with Jack, right? And remember, okay, give me more. Where in the scene when he's fighting with Jack? You're absolutely right. How did Chaplin choreograph that scene? These are the kinds of specifics I'm going to look for in analysis. We are on a great path here, right? He is short, all right? That came out in a fight scene. How? Yes, just give it a whirl. I appreciate it. Yes.
He just like he tries really hard, to like stand up to him, and all of he's kind of like losing until the clock comes.
Right, exactly.
Totally chance.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. It's totally chance. Okay, what does Jack do to him? Do you remember the move that he made on him that kind of... Yeah, his hat. He took his hat and boom, and so he shoved it down over his head, and then he was stumbling around and what have you. Just the way, too, how he was swinging and flailing about. His little arms are just kind of, trying to reach him, and he can't do that. What about when the fight scene in which he is in the cabin with Big Jim McKay? Yeah, he's constantly chasing him. Huh? Yeah, that's a different scene, but that is another example of how his short stature, I think, comes into play. This poor guy's huddling under this little table. Yeah, good. But when, let me give you more specifics. When Big Jim is hallucinating, and Chaplin is becoming a chicken, okay, they eventually start fighting, right? Because he's chasing him around. Okay, what's one thing that Big Jim chases him with? Say again? Shotgun. What happens with the shotgun? Not with it, but what happened? So yes. Well, that's when he shoots the bear, which I think is also kind of funny. Is that what you're referring to? Yes, and again, like the kick of the gun, like completely, again, short stature. There's a moment where Big Jim McKay and Chaplin, or the Tramp, are both holding on to the gun, okay? And then Jim McKay is just flipping him around like a rag doll. I mean, like all over the cabin. And so the Chaplin's like holding on for dear life to this gun, to try to make it out of this thing alive. I think all those things that you mentioned, and that was one thing that really stuck out to me because he looked so little and weak, just being thrown and tossed around the cabin, makes you feel bad for him. What else makes us feel bad for him? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, Big Jim McKay's like, I have a great idea. Okay, you stay here so I can get out, right? And Chaplin's like, okay. So you have this literal, like, he's being stepped on. He's literally being used, and he's being stepped on, okay, physically, which makes you feel bad for him. Good. What else? Go back to the beginning of the movie when he first comes into the cabin. This is what I think Chaplin is pretty brilliant. And I think this is one reason, too, why critics of his time thought he was so good. Because this character evolution goes through the whole film. What happens when he first, what else in that scene at the beginning when he's in the cabin makes you feel bad for him? Think about what he's doing, what he's saying, what he's wearing, the whole deal. Yes. He cooks his own shoe for a meal. He's like, do you want another one? He serves the shoe to Big Jim McKay, right? What does he give Jim McKay initially? You guys didn't laugh through this whole scene, which was fine. Maybe you had a smile on your face, I don't know. But it's a super subtle scene. Like, it's pretty famous, and for good reason. What does he give Big Jim first? The sole of the shoe, okay, which you don't really want the sole because you got the nail sticking out. You'd rather have, the top part. What does Big Jim McKay do? He switches it. So the little tramp gets kind of the short end of the stick. Chaplin flashes a little smile like, oh, sure, that's great. Oh, man, I have to deal with it. Good. What else? What are we seeing his character do over and over and over again? Even beyond that scene. His pants are falling down, yes, which makes us feel very bad for him when he's dancing. I love that. I think, again, I kind of said dignity a few times. He's trying so desperately not to embarrass himself. Okay, which that definitely makes you feel for him. Yes. Yeah, so he's dancing around, right? And he's trying desperately to keep his pants from falling. He sees a rope. And he's like, I'll just tie him. Yeah, and it ends up being to a dog, which is so ridiculous. But it kind of works out. And it's funny. And then he starts kicking the dog, thinking the dog's just following him. Anyway, black cat comes on the scene and it's all over. And everybody's laughing at him, which makes you feel bad for him. Let's go back to my original question. What is he doing all the time, it seems? Embarrassing himself? Yes. I wasn't thinking that, but you're absolutely right, which makes you feel bad for him. He is trying. He is not giving up. Go further. Maybe you said it and I've missed it. I'm not sure. But what is his character doing throughout the whole movie? He gives up his shoe. He lets Jim take what he wants. Okay, huh? Making sacrifices. He is constantly sacrificing and really, you could say, serving others. He's always giving something. He goes out and shovels this snow to create this party for these ladies that are completely playing him. And he kind of knows it. When they first come over, you know, he even said, it's very quick, but Chaplin narrates that, you know, it's kind of, I forget the exact line, but basically, oh, like, you know, he knows she was fooling, but he just loved the fact that she was there. Okay? So, the guy is dirt poor. He not only buys a pot roast, he gets them all presents. The stupid mule comes in the door. Random, okay. But what does the mule do? Takes one of the utensils set or whatever, eats it. And then what does he do after that? He switches it. So they all have the perfect place setting. You know, I mean, Big Jim McKay is kind of using him, right? But he embraces that. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And I think this is one reason why critics have said that this is a film that really comments on Chaplin's view of humanity and how people should be towards each other. That's a pretty huge worldview, I would say. That's a pretty big perspective. I think is really coming through this film, which is interesting being set in the context of the 1920s. Why? Yes. What you can gain, right? Going back to, is it on the last page? Oh, turn. Money? No, right there. Cash money. Going back to gain, personal gain. It doesn't surprise me at all that in this film you see, we'll be millionaires. And so they were. Like this random overnight get rich, because that feeling was very present in the 20s, especially as you get 25 on. Because 2% of the population, which was very, very public in the papers, seemed to be getting rich literally overnight. So the gold rush really kind of reflects that element of 1920s culture, I think. So, I mean, when you look at the Chaplin's character, okay, the fact that he's always serving, always being beat up, but persevering, etc., these are like real values that I think a lot of Americans kind of gravitated to when they saw his character. What else did we see in this film that connects to the Roaring Twenties? Some of the things that was happening in the Roaring Twenties. Because again, when you watch this film, even though it's supposed to be set in the late 1800s, there are elements of this that definitely ring of the 1920s. There's well, it's not anachronistic, but it's, yes, go ahead. Absolutely. It is all over the place in this film. Okay, so George's character, right? Right? You see a total feminist. story here. So how did that come out in this story? What did George's character do that kind of reminded us of feminism, or at least what women started to experience more in the 1920s?
Well, she played Charlie Chaplin.
Ooh, so what do you mean by that?
Like, instead of the guy, like, bitching with girl or whatever.
She was kind of playing the controller, like the controlling force there, which you're right, that typically is stereotypically reserved for men, if you will. Who was trying to control Georgia? Jack. Okay? Jack, that guy. All right, so so let's talk about some of that. So how did that relationship bring out this theme of feminism? Yeah, she totally stood up to him, pulling her arm away, all right, slapping him, okay, which showing that she is a strong woman. Even the narration at the beginning, Chaplin says she was strong, a strong, independent woman. Now, when he said that, I kind of was like, oh, darn it, I wanted you guys, because in the original silent film, they don't say that at all. You discover that through how she's acting that character out. Good. What were some other scenes, moments in which she showed that she was this strong woman? Specifics. And again, when you do work for me, listen now, I want you to get to this level. So what else did she do in her acting or the story? Or maybe the writing was something that brought it out. Think back to the scenes. First dance hall scene. What were some of the things she said? I can dance with whomever I choose. Right? And then she picks Chaplin. I love how he double checks to make sure that he is the one she's actually talking to this time. I think that's hilarious. By the way, I forgot to mention, and again, in terms of the cinematography and the way the scenes are shot, they're not super complex. But when he first walks into the dance hall, did you notice how Chaplin had that shot? That scene shot? So he walks into the dance hall, all right, and then what's the shot right after he walks in? Yes, the camera is behind him, so you don't see his face, which is typically annoying. There are a couple of shots in the movie where Jim McKay is shouting he has found gold, and he's completely looking the opposite direction of the camera, which I didn't understand that choice. Okay, but in that scene, you see him, and he's in the middle of this crowd, and then the music changes, and everybody leaves, and he is by himself. You feel bad for him. He is lonely. Okay, he is isolated. Right? And you see him, it's almost like a middle school dance. He sits there, he gets fidgety, he shifts around, he starts to tap his left leg with his hand, kind of like, oh, what should I do now? This is weird. And then he thinks George is looking at him, and all of a sudden things change. And he's going to, like, this girl likes, no, does not like me. So it's like it's this constant back and forth. Even after he realized that they weren't coming, what were some ways that he looked isolated? Yes. Right. You have this physical division. Lighting is key in that as well. He's in the dark, they're in the light. Good. I'm going to leave it there in terms of analysis. When we start to do some scene work tomorrow, I've given you, I feel like, a huge kind of head start on it. But since it's the first time we're going to be doing that, I wanted to do that. I'd like to look a little bit at the legacy of Chaplin. I need to quit mail so it stops making that noise. Okay. Whoa. Okay, sorry. So I'd like to look at a few of his films, not in their entirety, just scenes. Okay, and again, to give you a little bit of history, The Kid was his very first really popular one. Okay, and it's about how he literally finds this baby on the street and kind of this kid grows up, and it's almost like somewhat of an autobiography on his life. So he and this kid are working together. They're both dirt poor, of course. And his job is to replace windows. The kid is actually super cute. He's actually a really good actor in this film. He's also fast. You can see Chaplin's influence, I think, even on his acting. You notice this? He's inadvertently flicking stuff in the police officer's face. He's like, get away. You're gonna get me in trouble. Again, so you see a lot of this rich versus poor, you know, what the poor need to do to actually survive. Modern Times is the other film. Now this, it's interesting, the opening line to this is the story of industry, of individual enterprise, humanity crusading in the pursuit of happiness. Okay, so like he's telling you from the get-go, this is how I feel about industry. And on top of that, how I feel about the Great Depression. Hit the lights in the back. We have some sleepy, some people are getting sleepy. There we go. All right, so he's saying, look, this is what I think of industry and how it's controlling people.
Attention foreman. Trouble on bench 5. Check on the nut tighteners. Nuts coming through loose on bench 5. Attention foreman.
This is kind of referencing the whole assembly line concept, which Ford made really, really effective in the 20s, especially. It's interesting, right? The machine is controlling them.
Back.
Right? They
Section
were
5. More speed. 4-7.
So they were even, you know, like in the middle of the fight, but the machine started again, so they had to get back to work. We should relate to this, I think, actually, in terms of technology controlling us today. The machine is absurdly huge. So they're making it go faster to produce more. And he can't stop. He can't stop moving his arms since he's been on the 7 months.
Hey! Quit stalling. Get back to work. Go on.
So, very big brother, right? Again, commentary on industry and machines controlling us and losing our individuality. See if come for a little bit. Like there's this eating machine they're trying out, and so they put him in it, which looks absurd. So he's being fed everything. Again, the idea of automating every aspect of life, and it's not in this clip, but he eventually gets sucked down into that little or where everything is going. And he does this like cross shot. You literally see him going through all the gears of the machine. It's a very famous shot. If you've seen a montage before, it's probably in there. But again, he's just, that people are just part of a system. This is another, All right, we'll just look at the scene real quick. This is just kind of a fun scene in which his physical economy is really apparent. So we'll come back here tomorrow, wrap this up, and then move into analysis shortly after that. What'd you say? Yeah.
Are they on there or no?
Yeah, I put some clips from Great Dictator on here. Is that what you asked me?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah. So there's